Welcome back to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today. We are going to jump right in because our goal today is to dismantle some pretty outdated nutritional myths. We want to give you the absolute best science-backed strategies to optimize your brain health so you can stay sharp, focused, and vibrant for decades to come. We're going to be talking about a specific nutrient that is totally vital for cognitive function, but honestly, it's really misunderstood. So let's just dive right into this. For decades, the narrative surrounding brain health has been completely dominated by one single powerful image. You know it well, the egg. And honestly, whoever does the PR for the egg, they deserve an award because it has been relentlessly marketed as the ultimate poster child for brain food. And to be totally fair, this association isn't an accident. Eggs are an incredibly concentrated, highly bioavailable source of a specific nutrient called choline. But to really understand why that actually matters, we need to look under the hood a bit.
So why is choline actually so critical? We aren't just throwing around the abstract buzzword of brain health here. Choline literally physically structures your cell membranes as part of phospholipids. And beyond that, your body uses it to produce a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine. That's a major player in your memory, your mood, and even your muscle control. And finally, it drives methylation pathways that directly influence your DNA regulation and cellular signaling. So, the messaging was always super simple. Eat eggs, get choline, support your brain. But as we'll see, that framing kind of oversimplifies a much broader nutritional picture. And this brings us to a pretty significant complication. The traditional wisdom comes with a catch. While eggs absolutely deliver high levels of essential choline, relying heavily on them introduces dietary cholesterol and saturated fat right into your cardiovascular system. And sure, the science on dietary cholesterol has evolved over the years, but saturated fat intake and your overall dietary pattern, those are still very important factors when discussing cardiovascular risk. So this creates what we can call the brain-food paradox.
So the crucial point is this. How do we support optimal brain health without leaning heavily on animal products? Ask yourself, is it actually possible to meet all of our essential choline needs and fully support cognitive function using strictly plant-based whole food strategies? That is the pivotal question, and to answer it, we have to look somewhere you might not expect.
Section 1. The Gut Microbiome Complication, the TMAO Discovery. Okay. This takes us right into the fascinating world of gut science, and it perfectly illustrates why just looking at isolated nutrient intake never tells the whole story. Let's break down this biological procedure. Think of your gut bacteria like tiny biochemical factories. When you consume choline, particularly from animal sources, certain bacteria in your gut metabolize it into a compound called TMA. Your liver then takes that TMA and converts it into something called TMAO. And this is where it gets a little sticky, because observational studies associate elevated TMAO levels with cardiovascular risk markers. So a nutrient that's good for the brain is suddenly linked to a process that might not be so great for the heart. But there's a massive twist here. This whole process depends entirely on the composition of your gut microbiome, which is shaped by your long-term dietary patterns. Basically, your daily dietary habits act like a software update for your gut. They completely change how you process nutrients. The incredible fact here is that individuals who consume long-term plant-based diets cultivate a very different microbial population. Their microbiomes naturally produce significantly less TMAO under the exact same dietary challenges. Now, the science around TMAO is still evolving. It's viewed more as a marker associated with dietary pattern rather than a direct risk factor, but the context is incredibly clear. Nutrient effects depend heavily on your overall diet, not just isolated intake.
Moving on to Section 2, Plant-Powered Choline Sources, Discovering the Hidden Abundance.
Let's pivot to the vibrant reality that choline is absolutely not exclusive to eggs or meat. It is actually widely available across the entire plant kingdom. Just look at this incredible variety. While eggs are concentrated, they are absolutely not the only significant sources. Think of soy foods like tofu, edamame, and tempeh as your heavy hitters. They are literally among the richest plant sources available. We've got legumes like lentils and chickpeas providing choline right alongside fiber and folate. Seeds and nuts like sunflower seeds and peanuts bring choline plus healthy fats. Then there's quinoa, a great source of both choline and protein, and cruciferous superstars like broccoli and Brussels sprouts. And oh, don't forget wheat germ, which is incredibly concentrated. A varied plant-based diet can easily provide meaningful choline intake.
Now, when you're researching choline, you're inevitably going to bump into some scientific terminology. So let's pause real quick to define lecithin so we don't get lost in the jargon. Lecithin is simply a mixture of phospholipids that acts as a natural emulsifier. Think of an emulsifier like the dish soap that finally lets you wash stubborn grease off a pan. It helps oil and water play nice together. It's naturally found in plants, particularly in soybeans and sunflower seeds. But keep in mind, lecithin isn't just one single compound. It is a whole mixture.
Which brings us to phosphatidylcholine, or PC. PC is one of the major components of lecithin, making up roughly 15 to 35% of it, depending on the source. It is absolutely crucial because it's one of the main structural forms of choline in the body. It's used in cell membranes like neurons, in lipoproteins for fat transport, and in bile to help emulsify dietary fats. And while animal foods are rich in PC, there is zero need to stress. Your body is honestly an amazing machine with a built-in conversion factory. We can easily take the free dietary choline found in all those plant foods we just talked about and convert it right into phosphatidylcholine exactly as needed.
Section 3. Can the body make its own choline? The endogenous nuance.
So this brings up a really common biological question. If our liver can just manufacture choline, do we even need to worry about eating it? Well, the answer is yes, but your liver actually has this built-in factory called the PMT pathway that synthesizes choline. However, this internal production is genetically variable. It's also highly dependent on your estrogen status. In fact, estrogen increases choline synthesis, which is exactly why requirements shift during life stages like pregnancy and lactation. Because of your unique genetics and hormones, this internal production is simply not sufficient to meet all your needs. Long story short, dietary intake remains strictly essential.
Section 4. The methylation network. Choline's teammates.
Let's zoom out for a second here. I want you to think of choline as a star player on a sports team. A star player is great, right? But they cannot win the game alone. They require an interconnected methylation network to actually function. So let's meet the rest of the team. Choline plays a central role in the methylation cycle, supporting DNA repair and liver detoxification. But it works alongside folate, an essential methyl donor. It works with vitamin B12, which is totally critical for neurological function. It relies on betaine, which is derived partly from choline and found in things like beets, spinach, and quinoa. And it works with methionine, an essential amino acid.
To keep this whole network running smoothly, adequate overall protein intake is vital. For reference, the World Health Organization estimates that a 70-kilogram adult needs roughly 1.05 grams of combined methionine and cysteine daily. But to put that into perspective for an average adult, that really just means prioritizing overall daily protein, not just obsessing over one single nutrient. These nutrients do not act in isolation, they function as a complete interconnected network. Adequate intake of protein, B vitamins, and methyl donors is what truly supports efficient metabolic function.
Section 5. Practical plant-based strategies. Real food, real results.
All right, let's bring all this complex biology down to earth with some simple, actionable grocery store choices. The goal here is not to max out your choline intake. It's to ensure adequate, balanced intake. So here is your food-first strategy. Prioritize the choline-dense plant foods we talked about: soy, legumes, seeds. Next, strategically combine them. A meal that pairs legumes, grains, and vegetables naturally skyrockets your overall nutrient density. Focus on your overall dietary pattern rather than stressing over a single nutrient. And finally, maybe avoid excessive mega-dose supplementation. While lecithin and PC supplements exist, whole foods provide these compounds in a complex matrix of fiber and fatty acids. A simple, genuinely delicious plate of tofu, quinoa, and broccoli does the trick beautifully, without the unwanted side effects that can come from megadosing isolated supplements.
I want to leave you with this core philosophy from our source material today. Optimizing brain health is not about finding a single superfood. It is about interconnected metabolic systems. It is really about a wide range of nutrients working harmoniously together. A well-planned plant-based diet can absolutely provide meaningful choline intake while simultaneously supporting your cardiovascular health, your metabolic balance, and long-term sustainability. You really don't need a poster child superfood to have a super brain.
But wait, choline is really just one piece of the puzzle. What about the actual energy factories inside your brain cells? What about creatine? Why might that be the ultimate missing link? Well, we are going to uncover that fascinating story in our next explainer. Stay curious, and I will see you next time.